We talk all the time about, voice acting is cool because you get to record in your pajamas and you don't have to look 10 out of 10 attractive all the time. So I better not say that unless I'm willing to live up to it. I'm still working from home, which is a lot better than a fair number of people have it in the world right now. What got me into the career was just this excitement of this natural energy, this natural enthusiasm that I had, and apply it in a way that would get me paid. And so that initial interest was pretty selfish, and I think it was a fairly selfish reason to want to get into the industry was, aha, I don't have to change who I am, I can get paid for it. um, but what has kept me in it is, the idea that voice acting is what allows me to go on adventures that normally would not be possible in real life. It's that same excitement that got me into the craft was, I want to be a part of these RPGs. I want to be a part of these adventures. Even on those days when I'm like, I'm exhausted, I don't want to do these auditions. What's the point? I'm going to be competing against this many people. There's that flame of hope, that flame of excitement of, but how cool would it be if, I always tell people about my experience with Breath of the Wild. I didn't, at first, when I was first auditioning for it, I thought it was a Dragon Quest game. I didn't know it was for Legend of Zelda. But even despite thinking it was a Dragon Quest game, I didn't go, oh, there's no chance in hell I'm going to book this role. It was, hey, how cool would it be if I managed to be a part of the next Dragon Quest game? Even today, there are games that are going to exist 5 years from now that we don't even know about because they haven't even started production yet. And there's a very real chance that I could become a part of them. You look at Genshin Impact. Look at any game that didn't exist 5 years ago that now exists today that people rant and rave about, and that could happen for any given period of 5 years. So that's the sort of thing. It's like, hey, if I was able to become a part of Breath of the Wild in 2017, imagine what I could be doing in 2022.
You have need of me to defeat Calamity Ganon.
Prior to the pandemic, a good 70-75% of the work that I did was in studios. And generally what would happen is they would schedule a recording time for me, most of these studios being in Los Angeles or Burbank. So, if today's the 7th, they might reach out to me and say, hey, what's your availability look like for the 11th through the 15th? And I'll say, here's the times that I have available. And that can be either times that I'm open, or I can say, I'm basically free, except I can't be here any later than 4 p.m. because I have my streams at 5. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm available until 2, but Tuesday is blocked out because I've already got 2 sessions that day. Just basically giving them a gist of here's where my open slots are. And then they will request, based on what works within their schedule, what time they'd like to have me come in. So I might say, Monday, Thursday, Friday, I'm open until 4 p.m. And they'll go, cool, can we hold 1 to 4 on Thursday? And, if that works for me, I'll be like, cool. Sometimes they'll be like, can we do 11 to 1? And I'll say, can we possibly do 10 to 12? Because I have a 2 p.m. session. I'd like to give myself some extra vocal rest time.
Mhm.
And if they can accommodate it, they'll switch it around. If they can't, then I'll do my best to accommodate. At the end of the day, it's not your standard 9 to 5 where it's I expect to be working every single day from this time to this time. It's, clients will reach out to me with their requests and we collaborate to try and find a placement within my schedule that works for every party involved. And I kind of like that flexibility because, as often as there can be times where I just have nonstop recording, which can be really taxing on the throat, there's also this level of freedom where I liken it to, there's people who they take time off for conventions where they're like, hey, I took my vacation days off from work this year, so this is the 1 or 2 conventions that I get to go to this year.
Yeah.
Whereas in my case, it's very common that if there's like 6 conventions that I want to go to throughout the year, I can plan to go to all of them as long as I give advance notice to the clients and be like, hey, just so you guys know, here's my planned trips that I'm going to be making this year. I'm not going to be available on these days. And that gives them all the time in the world to go, okay, well, we'll make sure that we don't schedule on those days. Just try and leave this day open for us in case we need it. And so I am so appreciative of the freedom that I get, the flexibility that I get in my life. There's some times where I might go in with a certain understanding about a character and it turns out it's close but not quite the direction they want to take. I might start with a particular voice for a character and they might say, take some of the gravel away or make him a little bit younger. In most cases, I wouldn't say it ever goes beyond like a surface level, like, oh, that's fine, but we want to tweak it a little bit. The only major one that sticks out is Revali to me, because people have heard the story I told about how I came in kind of treating Revali as a character who was a showman in terms of his confidence, rather than someone who had every right to be confident and wasn't just doing it to flaunt or flex, but, you know, was genuinely upset that the hard work they put in was not being recognized to the degree that it should have. And that was just a matter of resetting my understanding of the character and approaching it from a different direction, you know, just trying not to lean too hard into my original interpretation. But that's why voiceover itself is a collaborative process. You're going to work with the director and with the client to figure out what you are capable of doing, and that matches with the vision that the director or the client has for that project. I want to say the hardest one was probably the original Breath of the Wild, and that was just because that was still early on in my understanding of the game and my understanding of the character. You know, I was being introduced to them to the first time, so I was still trying to figure out all of their mannerisms and their motivations. By the time we got around to the DLC, I'd already become in tune with the character. I better understood their motivations. I understood why they did the things they did and say the things they say. And so, since I was more comfortable with the character, I wasn't worried as much about messing up the mentality or the approach, and that allowed me to focus more on the performance. And then by Age of Calamity, we've interacted with the fandom regarding, you know, their interpretations of the characters. We've understood, we've played the game for ourselves. So at that point, it was like a family reunion, so to speak, where we come back, it's like, Revali, my old friend, you dumb bastard. And getting to play around, and at that point it doesn't even feel like work anymore. It's just fun. It's just revisiting a character that you enjoy. And in that same vein, I do believe that my performances continuously got better from the original Breath of the Wild to the DLC, from the DLC to Age of Calamity, to the point where when I was streaming Age of Calamity and Revali would talk, I wasn't hearing myself, Sean Chiplock, as Revali. It actually felt like I was listening to Revali, the character. With the Great Deku Tree, that was basically the don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up, because, you know, I knew who the Great Deku Tree was. And he was just a case of, I knew that I'm not a natural baritone or bass, so I couldn't hit a super deep baritone and make it sound realistic. So it was a question of, what can I do that fits this character, that I can do consistently and believably? And that's how we kind of ended up with that very wise, very slow and lower tone, very breathy, like, you know, a tree that is breathing in the oxygen around him, photosynthesis, you know, stuff like that.
You finally decided to return. Better late than never. After 100 years, I'd nearly given up hope on seeing you again. Even my patience has limits, you know.
So that was more of a mechanical performance. It's, I know how I want to perform him. I just need to figure out how to achieve a voice that fits him so I can do the performance. With Teba was actually a adjustment to an existing character voice. There's this angry guy named Sheen who I voice in this animated series called Bedfellows, and he's just really mad all the time, just always super gravelly, super angry.
You didn't stop.
Stop worrying about it. We'll be fine. Now shut up.
But
I said shut up!
And I said, what if I took that anger at, you know, whatever's frustrating him, and I made it, he wasn't angry, he was just bitter, he was worried, he was concerned.
So if you take that act of anger and you pull it in and you make it something that's just weighing heavy on your soul, now all of a sudden you've got someone who's not lashing out at other people, they're just focused on themselves.
I don't know you, and I'm actually pretty busy here. You should probably go.
For me, I'm a method actor. I'll often pose the way I imagine the character would be posing, or in a way that makes me feel like that character would be feeling. For some people, it's closing their eyes and like creating the landscape out in front of them and reacting to it as if they were seeing it for real. And there's still a lot of growth to be had. You know, it's definitely a passion career and not a fame and money career. It's important to realize that part of these performances being so good is that they come from a place of passion. And if you don't have the passion for the gig itself, if you don't have the passion for the process of performing, it's gonna show through. You know, you use different muscles to smile than you do to frown, and you use muscles in your throat to talk. So if those muscles are not working with each other, it's going to produce a different sound than what you're going for. So your heart has to be there as much as your mouth and your mind are.
Who is that? Did I doze off again?